Hi Elise, Taylor Satansky here to talk about my rhetorical criticism reflection for the 2016 Session A. Yeah, Session A. Okay, here we go. I've done this video probably 4 times, so I'm really trying to just nail it for you here. So I'm just going to jump right on in. Let's talk rhetorical criticism. So essentially what I've discovered is rhetorical criticism is a mixture of thinking, impacting, and discovering. You can do all these 3 things based on Sonia Foss's definition of rhetorical criticism, my past knowledge of rhetorical criticism, and what I've learned in your class. The purpose of this sort of communication is to evaluate the purpose of an artifact. And an artifact can be anything between a speech, a piece of art, advertisements, a text. Hardly anything can't be an artifact, if you know what I mean. So I found that performing rhetorical criticism and being aware of rhetorical criticism gives you a different lens to view certain situations from, to focus on different pieces of the artifact, to get you to a new conclusion perhaps you didn't see on the surface value. The primary audience of rhetorical criticism, as of now, the way I see it, is higher level education. Primarily, the students in our class were upper division, juniors or seniors, looking to evaluate certain pieces of work based on a theoretical perspective, which I think is really helpful in moving forward in the college career and kind of just, working your way through life. Some say perhaps it's not the best thing to be a critic, but I also feel as though people are always trying to sell you something or get you to sign up for something. So I think rhetorical criticism gives you a different lens to be critical from and grow from. I don't believe that it's limited to those in higher education, but primarily, as of now, I can see that being the main audience for rhetorical criticism. I know rhetorical criticism is primarily used to incite some sort of reaction from its audience, whether that be go out and save the pandas or certain awareness of situations like stranger danger or something like that. I think it's primarily to alert the audience and propel them towards a certain direction. A lot of times right now we're seeing that in voting. There's a lot of rhetoric that surrounds both sides of political parties and trying to get you to vote for them. I think that's primarily the focus in rhetorical criticism to those who have not had some sort of education in regards to rhetorical criticism past the public, if that makes sense. Throughout this class, we've analyzed 3 major critiques. Those include neo-Aristotelian, genre, and ideology. I've really enjoyed all 3 of these, and I think they all 3 kind of add a different lens, to look from, so you can gain a new perspective and kind of a new outlook. But primarily, as of right now, I'm going to be talking about the neo-Aristotelian criticism. I'm just going to refer to it as NA, so I don't choke up again. But essentially, the goal of this criticism was to evaluate effectiveness through the use of canons and through the use of, or through the background knowledge of the rhetor, aka the speaker, or the author, or the publisher, or not the publisher, the person speaking, rhetor. So the canons, like I mentioned earlier, really evaluate the structure, the layout, the tone of the speech. To give you a proper definition, canons are invention, organization, style, memory, and delivery. Those can be found on page 24 in Sonia Foss's book. But these are primary things that you work step by step with when doing the Neo-Aristotelian critique to evaluate whether or not the critique was effective. I think that this critique is primarily best for analyzing speeches, which I did. I analyzed Steve Jobs' commencement address to Stanford, and I felt like this criticism gave me a lot to look at in regards to not only what he was saying, but how he was saying it, the layout of what he chose to say. I definitely think that this criticism is best for analyzing speeches, and it's one of its strengths. I also have found that this criticism in particular really focuses on the rhetoric, and for somebody other than Steve Jobs, perhaps, who isn't as famous, who isn't as well known, I think this is an advantage when analyzing something that they have written. A weakness of the speech definitely is there's no real measure of effectiveness. So to me, I could have thought this speech was effective, but perhaps to you, you could have said like, oh heck no, this is awful. So I think that there's a little bit ambiguity in regards to what is effective and how to judge whether or not a Neo-Aristotelian critique is done effectively. So, on to the next one. Genre. Genre was kind of a funny one because when I thought genre, I only thought, the tabs on my Netflix. But, I wasn't wrong in the sense that humans like to categorize things and make things, neat and organized. And so this critique aims to discover commonalities in rhetorical patterns across recurring situations. That can be found on 137 of Sonia Foss's book as well. Basically, this method, you look at 3 certain aspects of genre: substantial, situational, and stylistic. And then you can also choose to look at a specific type of genre, whether that be description, participation, or application. And in my paper, I chose to do a participation aspect of the genre criticism, determining whether or not a certain speech I analyzed fit in an overreaching category that I chose. And with the use of evidence, I was definitely able to find this true. Strengths of this analysis are definitely that it can be anything from a movie to a speech to artwork to an advertisement. So I also believe that, like I said earlier, people really enjoy putting things into groups. And so this is one primarily that kind of goes with our basic instincts. And so I think that's definitely a strength. But I also do believe that genre can be rather subjective. Perhaps I watched a comedy movie that wasn't funny to me. So, I don't know. You can kind of determine whether or not the specific genre applies to the movie you watched. You can use that critique and argue whether or not you believe it to be true or not. So I feel as though that's a key piece in the genre criticism. Next would be ideology. In this method, we kind of learned how to read between the lines, which I feel like I do pretty often. Not that I have a critical view on the world, but I feel that you can't take things at their surface value. You've got to dig a little bit deeper. And this sort of ideology really kind of helped me create a specific procedure to doing that properly by identifying the element, linking suggested elements, and then formulating an ideology. We look to find patterns, beliefs, values, and assumptions. and that's from Sonia Foss on 209. So we can easily apply some sort of ideology to our daily life. For example, like sometimes I'll walk through campus, like the first week of school, and everybody will be handing out like free pizza or free CU stuff, but it's never really free. They either ask for your time or ask for a donation, or there's some sort of something that, in particular, in this situation, the university is trying to gain from you getting something for free. So it's not really free. And I think this example is primarily something that I've seen a lot on the campus. And just kind of overall, this is definitely a criticism you can apply to your daily life. And that would be a strength of this criticism, is it's so applicable. However, a weakness of this criticism would be sometimes finding an ideology is rather difficult. And this is also sort of subjective in the sense that you might view something a certain way, and my ideology could be different from it. So just because it's an ideology doesn't mean it's a baseline of well-known knowledge or 100% true. So it's still subjective. So those are going to be the three criticisms: ideology, genre, and neo-Aristotelian. Now let's start talking about the future of rhetorical criticism. So as of now, rhetorical criticism helps us look at different situations or artifacts through a specific lens. It focuses on different structures of artifacts to help us better understand something in particular, to find its purpose. And I think it's great. I think that now that I've taken this class, I'm going to be applying what I know to different situations, not only within an academic text or context. I know that we can make this interesting outside the classroom, perhaps analyzing things of daily life, maybe a cultural something we see, or the news, or, I think there's pieces of communication that will appeal to more than one audience. And as of right now, it appears to be primarily focused on higher education. The goals, I believe in the future, I guess this is more future still. In the future of rhetorical criticism, I believe there's going to be many, many more criticisms to look out for. I imagine Sonia Foss's next book is going to be a lot bigger. I think that this book is really awesome. I think it gives us great pieces of literature to look at and great student essays to kind of build from. And I foresee the future of this book being a lot bigger. And hopefully those new findings will be published to not just an academic field, but one that's perhaps more popularized. Overall, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to not write the reflection, but show you a video of it. I've really enjoyed your class, and I look forward to seeing you around on campus. Thanks, Elise. Bye.